Before I officially started the company, when I was working at Reliance First Capital, not only was I helping friends and family, but I had a lot of clients where maybe they wouldn't qualify for the best loans or more expensive ones because their credit score wasn't as good. And then as we would talk, I would build up a relationship because the process is quite lengthy. So I would get to know my clients very well. And at that point, we would talk about finances, of course, and they would mention, hey, my car insurance is very expensive. I was like, listen, I would give them a little advice. And I realized over time, a lot of people were very grateful and they were telling me I should do this as a business. Over time, as more and more people started telling me this and I started slowly trying it out, then yeah, of course, I ended up starting my own business. My name is Ajmal. I am the founder and owner of Reduce Costs Now. We help families save money on their household bills, car insurance, mobile phone plans, and we charge a percentage of whatever we end up saving them. And we are a Long Island-based company.
So tell me, this honestly sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
So tell me honestly how this program works or how your company works, and um, so when you save them money, how just explain this because I think that so many people are going to have questions about the actual process of how this works.
Yeah, of course. The way our company functions is that we'll do a mixture of things, whether it's making sure there's no discounts that you're missing, maybe it's negotiation, maybe it's just doing our due diligence with our expertise. But what we'll do is we'll get you savings, and then depending on the overall amount, we charge a fraction of the total amount saved. And our clients love it because if there's ever a case where they don't save anything, at worst case, they lose nothing, maybe just a few minutes at a time. Best case, on average, families save $1,000 a year with us.
Wow. So your average is the average family that goes through your company saves $1,000 a year.
Yes. And the more services, on average, if a family does more than one service, of course, they'll save more. I've had people that have saved 2,500 a year. They did the car insurance, they did property tax, which is popular, and the mobile phone plan with internet. So it's a mixture of different things that we offer.
There's a lot that I want to cover here because I'm curious about how you got into this industry, but then I'm also curious. I want you to walk me through the process. Let's pretend I'm a prospective client. So let's hear first how you got into this industry.
Yeah, of course. So I got into this industry about 2 years ago. Over the last decade or so, whether it was with schooling, graduating from Baruch as a finance major, or just in general working in a lot of different industries. I worked for Allstate at one point, learned a lot about the insurance, the algorithm, how it works. I worked for Reliance First Capital, so I learned about the mortgage industry. So I would say over the years, I just kept learning, kept studying on my own, speaking with a lot of different people in different industries, picking up small little tips and tricks. And then the process itself, the way it works is, let's say you're a client and you're interested in our services. You would reach out to us. We schedule a 15-minute free consultation. After the consultation, you tell me, all right, I'm interested in the car insurance. Let's start with one thing. Great. Send over your declarations page, sign a few documents, etc., saying that you understand how this works, you're interested. Great. Then what we'll do is we'll schedule a three-way phone call with your insurance company. We'll start making sure we get you the most savings possible. Once everything is done and confirmed, then we send you an invoice after you're 100% satisfied.
Well, to my understanding, you do one service at a time. It's not like I give you all my information at once, and it's like then you go further. It's one service at a time, or how?
So in terms of our services, we recommend at first for our clients to do one service at a time. This way they don't get overwhelmed and our team won't. And usually in my experience, I've noticed that when someone has a good experience on the first service, they're far more inclined to do the rest. So then we'll do two or three more services depending on what they're interested in.
And I guess I would assume that I guess, conversion rate is a lot higher when they just have to send over one or two pages as opposed to having to send over 15 pages.
Yeah, exactly. We keep it as simple as possible. We don't want them sending us unnecessary things. We let them know exactly what we need. And there's times where people have told me, I don't know what a declarations page is. I don't know how to get it. I'm like, no problem. We'll call with you and we'll get it over within 5 minutes.
Why? How come more people don't know about your company? Like, what's the? It sounds like such a great opportunity. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so the reason why people don't know about our company is because this is a very, very niche industry. We have maybe two or three competitors that I'm aware of,
Hmm.
and it's just something that is not that popular. But I think in the next decade or so, this is going to be very, very popular because everyone wants to save money and everyone needs to save money, especially with how expensive things are nowadays. So what's the cost? You're going to save far more than what you would spend, and you don't have to do any of the work.
You made an interesting point, and I guess I wouldn't have thought of it this way, that you said it's a relatively new industry. And I was surprised to hear that but then after like a couple seconds that I was thinking about it in our conversation, it does make a little bit more sense because 50 years ago, how many services were you really paying for a month? Maybe I don't even know if you had a phone, like a home phone bill at
Yeah,
that point.
true.
You had your car insurance, your property taxes, and just some of the staples like your utility bills and stuff. But there's no Wi-Fi bill. There
Yeah.
was no all the, and there's no Netflix bill. All these things that we're paying we're paying a lot of money.
Yeah,
The consumerism of America has continued to grow.
absolutely.
With that being said, though, there's a lot of opportunity to save. And I'm curious, one, if you have any comment on that, but two, your opinion on how if you found that people see this almost as a scam. Obviously, we know it's not,
Yeah.
but it almost sounds like a too good to be true kind of opportunity, and usually those are scams. So, like, have you had trouble where people like are hesitant to use your services because they're afraid that it might be, quote, again, too good to be true, or how do you combat that?
Absolutely. I've had a lot of people where, of course, they're naturally very skeptical. It's a mixture of one of two things. Either they think it's a scam, or what they'll say is, I'm very good at what I do. I handle my finances.
Mm,
You can't save me money. So for people that think it's a scam, what I tell them is, if it was a scam, we would charge you upfront or ask for your credit card, social security. We don't ask for any unnecessary personal information. And I mention them all the time. We have a 100% rating. If I was going to scam someone, it would not be for
mm.
$200 just to risk my company's reputation, etc. And then as far as if someone, I had a client, he actually mentioned, he was like, I work in finance, I'm great with numbers. I shop around every single year for my insurance. With my mobile phone plan, I make sure I call them and I threaten to cancel, etc. You cannot save me money. We were going back and forth. I told him, listen, I am very good at what I do. I've been doing this for many years. At one point, I was even doing this for free. That's how passionate I am about this. If I can't save you money, I will give you $100. Guaranteed. You have my word. He started laughing and then he liked that response and he ended up giving me a chance. I ended up saving him thousands of dollars. But again, it's very normal to feel like that. And that's why we're so confident we offer a 100% money back
Mm.
guarantee. And we only ask for the money after our services are completed.
You said that you did this for free for a while. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, of course. So what happened was before I officially started the company, when I was working at Reliance First Capital, not only was I helping friends and family, but I had a lot of clients where maybe they wouldn't qualify for the best loans or more expensive ones because their credit score wasn't as good. And then as we would talk, I would build up a relationship because the process is quite lengthy. Getting a mortgage is not like a one-day thing. It could take a month. So I would get to know my clients very well. And at that point, we would talk about finances, of course, and they would mention, hey, my car insurance is very expensive. I was like, listen, I would give them a little advice. And I realized over time, a lot of people were very grateful and they were telling me I should do this as a business.
Hmm.
At first, I just pushed it to the side, but over time, as more and more people started telling me this and I started slowly trying it out, then yeah, of course, I ended up starting my own business.
Now you mentioned that you have some like two or three competitors. Is that in the state? Is that nationwide? And what differentiates you from your competitors?
Yeah, so when it comes to our competition, we have one competitor there in Texas. Now, I've never used their service, so I'm not going to badmouth them. However, when I was researching them, I was curious as to if they do the exact same thing as us. The difference is this: they don't offer as wide a variety of services as we do. And on top of that, their ratings, I think they had about 50 reviews and they had a 3.1 or a 3.3 stars. We have a perfect 100% rating on Google, Yelp, etc. So they charge permanently based on what they save you a percentage. We charge a
Oh,
one-time
yearly.
fee. Yep.
Wow.
And we charge a one-time fee. That's it. Because personally, I don't believe that if I'm doing the work one time for you, I should not charge you more than once.
Hmm. So can you explain how your fees work? So you mentioned like a portion of it. How does that work? Like let's actually pretend like so I'm interested in your services.
Yeah.
What's the first step? What do we do? And then from there, like I'd say you save me $1,000 a year. So how does that actually work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, if you're interested in our services, what I would tell you is after the consultation, let's begin with, let's say, car insurance. That's the most popular program we have. So, maybe you have Geico. Now, I'm going to ask you to send over your declarations page, maybe sign a few documents. Great. At that point, we're going to set aside time. We'll speak with Geico, we'll do a three-way call, etc. And at that point, I'm going to get you the savings. Now, let's say I save you $1,000 a year, and these are permanent discounts attached to your account. So what we do is we charge you the first year of savings upfront, but every single year you're still saving that $1,000, not having to do any of the work. So in 5 years, for example, you would save 5,000 minus our $1,000 fee in that case. You would still get a net savings of $4,000, you
Hmm.
know? And if it's a temporary discount, maybe it's $600 for 1 year. We split the savings that are temporary down the middle. We keep 300, you still keep 300 yourself.
Mm.
No
Wow.
matter what, you'll save more than what you pay us.
Again, it sounds like a too good to be true thing, but it's just one of those things out there that like, I just had somebody recently on the podcast, and they were the company was called Buyback X, and it's a company that essentially they buy back phones and sell reused phones, and just the structure of his business. I'm like, why have I never heard of this or used this service? And it's one of the things that we talk about. And this is my next question: is you can have the best company in the world, but without being out there and getting out there and marketing and branding, it doesn't necessarily matter. And I'm curious, that being said, I'm not saying you're doing a bad job. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
and that's not what I'm saying at all, actually. I'm just saying, I'm curious, with that said, what are you doing with marketing?
Yeah, so we tried a few different things. So about half a year ago, we hired someone for marketing. We ended up not wanting to continue that partnership, but now,
So what did you like? What were their services and what were they doing? What didn't you like?
so our previous partner, we were strictly focused on meta ads. Now what we're doing is we're going to focus not only on meta ads, but targeting it differently completely, but also we're going to focus on Google ads as well. So I have a family friend, he actually does marketing himself, so he's going to be assisting me, which I really appreciate. And what we're also doing is, it might be a little old school, we've been doing yard signs. So far, we've had a 3x ROI with only just
Wow.
100 yard signs.
Wow.
Just ordered 500 more, so hopefully if you're on Long Island, you'll be seeing a lot more of our signs.
Wow. So what does it say on the sign?
Yeah, so it'll say like our company name, email, phone number, and then it'll list three of our most popular services, typically car insurance, property taxes, and
But like
maybe,
what? Like save money on your.
yeah, it'll say save money guaranteed. Yep. And it'll have our logo on the left side as well. Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. It's a 3x is pretty interesting. And it's funny because like I think that people, depending on your industry, I think that people dismiss like just old school marketing tactics, and they
Yeah.
think they have to go with meta ads and look, meta ads work great. Like the ROI on those are for sure great, or can be great if you're doing well.
Yeah.
But there's also other ways to do it as well. And 3x is pretty sweet
Yeah,
actually.
of course.
So I'm really curious to see what happens as you actually pour gasoline on that fire. Does that 3x become 5x? Does it stay at 3x regardless? Even at 3x, you put $1,000 in, you make 3,000 out is
Yeah.
pretty sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned that you started with meta ads with somebody else. What
Yeah.
what what did you find wasn't working with them?
So the thing is, when it comes to meta ads, there's very nuanced and specific things that have to be done to make it more optimized. So for example, they have something where it's pixel. So their technology is always changing, of course. And a lot of the AI that they use, it'll automatically test out different photos or videos, and it'll pour more of your money towards whatever it thinks is working.
Mhm.
We didn't have that set up. Obviously, if we did, I think that could have made our campaigns significantly more optimal.
Hmm.
So that's just one example. Plus, we're trying to focus less on like graphs and static posts. We're trying to focus more on real relationships, real conversations,
Hmm.
things like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
I mean, even I think even just you talking to the camera, could be a really, really great thing. Being like, this sounds like a scam, but
Yeah.
it's not. I think because again, I think that I'm personally, if I heard this, I'd be like, plus, I mean, obviously, I love business; it's
Yeah.
what I do. But also, like, I'm really into the finance industry and like have been in the markets and stuff. And there's just so many people just trying to like scam people out of
Yeah.
money. And so I would be. I don't know if the average person would be hesitant. I would be. But like, it's really about just I think getting the customer or potential customer that getting their guard down and be like, oh wait,
Yeah,
this
of
actually
course.
does sound pretty legit. Let me look into this kind of thing.
It's funny you mentioned that because recently we had a lot of, we did a festival. At the festival, they had a lot of non-food vendors, etc. And a lot of the people that were stopping by our booth, they asked us, what is it that you do? So
Hmm.
we would speak with them, we would explain briefly, and 99% of them said, wow, that's a really great idea. How have I never heard of this before?
Hmm.
So we were laughing and we took that as feedback. We're like, okay, so we need to focus a lot more on the awareness, maybe like an education campaign, just so people know what it is that we do and why it's valuable. 10 times out of 10 times, they're going to end up coming back to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I want to hear the results of that. What did you the festival? Like, I'm assuming that there was a booth fee to set up there, and
Yeah.
did it like and outside of the branding and awareness that it created, did were signups created right there? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, so the festival that we did was our very first time doing one. We were all nervous. We were all, but it's one of those things where you have to try. At worst, you lose a few $1,000s. That's fine. I was willing to invest it. With that being said, what we did was, thankfully, I had a lot of friends and family that were able to assist as well. And we had a spinner, like a wheel spinner, where depending on what it lands on, all you have to do is follow us. You're gonna win something for free. Maybe it's pens, maybe it's bracelets, or the t-shirts. That's what most people wanted. So while people were following our Instagram page, etc., getting awareness, we would quickly tell them this is what we do, these are the services we offer. A few people would have questions. How does it work? Besides car insurance, what else can you do? Can you help me with my house? Of course. So it was nice because we were having real conversation with
Mm,
people. And then depending on whoever had an interest, maybe they had a car, maybe they didn't. Maybe they want to help with the internet service provider. They would fill out their information, name, number,
mm,
etc., and then we would contact them shortly
mm.
after. And it was very successful. Now we plan on doing a lot more.
Well, very interesting. So I guess the ROI was worth it.
Yeah.
So let's talk, I guess, specific industries and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, isn't car insurance a regulated industry or is it not? I honestly don't know how it works. So how do you end up saving people money on that?
Yeah, so for example, car insurance is heavily regulated. It's a very, very tough industry. With that being said, because there's a lot of rules, people don't realize that just because there's rules, it doesn't mean that there's no ways to save money. Every single person has a different account, different file, even if you have the same company. So, for an example, let's say you and I, we both have Geico. Maybe your credit score is 800, maybe my credit score is 600. So, just because of that alone, statistically, they know someone that has a 600 credit score is far more likely to get into an accident.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that I've gotten into an accident. Maybe I never had, but at the end of the day, it's statistics. So they'll take that into account. Now, what are they going to do? They're going to charge you a premium. That's just one of the many factors. If you're married, people that are married, they tend to drive more safely. Or if you're below the age of 25, 26, you're going to end up paying a premium because a lot of people in that age category, they're getting into far more
Hmm.
accidents. So there's so many factors. Now, these are some of the basics that people know about, but there's a lot more and there's a lot of discounts people aren't aware of. So it's things like this that we use the information to get them savings.
So how do you go? You can't change the person's age,
Yeah.
obviously. So what are some examples of things you would do?
So as an example, what we'll do is, like you said, you can't change someone's account information. Unfortunately, if you're 22 years old, you just have to wait a few years to start saving more. But until then, what we can do is we can make sure that they're getting all the discounts that they possibly can qualify for. I've had people where they had a brand new 2025 Mercedes. For some reason, the representative that they were working with, they didn't have discounts for, their lights, the anti-lock. These are safety
Mm,
features your car has. You're less likely to get your car stolen. Obviously, that's going to cost the insurance company less, so then they pass on a bit of the savings to you. But if you're not aware of that and if they're not doing it for you, then you're never going to get those savings. And it adds up. Even if it's 1 or 2%, you do like 5 or 10 of those, that's another 10, 20% you could save on your car insurance.
hmm.
So it's small little things like that that people don't know about. And one of the largest things is I've had people where they didn't realize that some of these questions, they're optional. It might ask you for your job title. Sometimes that can work for you, sometimes it can work against you.
Hmm.
So, depending on what your occupation is, answering that, it might increase your premiums or it might decrease it. So we review every single little thing and then maybe we'll get rid of that because again, it is optional. Maybe we'll add that. Now that I know your job title, I know you're in a safer category. So it's like small little things like this. And again, it depends on the carrier. Every single company is different, but we look into everything.
How do you plan to scale this? What's the scalability of this?
Yeah, so what we're planning to do to scale the company is we're going to focus a lot more on marketing and advertising. That's where we're reinvesting. Other than that, what we're going to do is right now we're able to handle the workload that we have. However, I can see how it'll very quickly become a problem. We're going to have one person focus on one specific field. We'll train them. So maybe they'll focus on car insurance and homeowner
Hmm.
insurance. They'll have their licensing, etc. And then someone else can focus on internet plans. Maybe they previously worked for Verizon or T-Mobile. So we're going to end up hiring more people as well.
I like that. I actually really like the specialized
Yeah.
employees. I think is really cool because then they know the ins and outs of of that specific industry
Yeah,
rather than having to know the ins and outs of every industry. That's really interesting. I like that a lot. That's cool.
thank you.
So where do you see the company going? Like, what's your goal? What are some goals you have or expectations you have for the company in the future?
Yeah, so some goals that we have for the future are definitely hiring more people, definitely having a lot more clients, and making sure that we're optimal with the way that we can save our clients money. So 2026 alone, we're looking to open up our own brokerage. That's going to be exciting because now we'll be able to offer our clients insurance directly from us. But the way insurance works is you're not always going to be the cheapest. For some people, maybe Geico is better, sometimes maybe Allstate or State Farm. With that being said, we'll offer it. If we can't save them money with us, we'll still offer our services where we can lower their premiums with the same company they have. And the most important thing is people don't realize we don't change the company you have and we don't change the coverage. So if you have a $500 deductible, of course, increasing it to 1,000 would make your insurance cheaper. That's not a savings. You could have done that yourself. You didn't need us. We don't charge you for any small changes like that.
So talk to me about a little bit more about the brokerage. I'm curious about that. So what kind of insurance would you be offering and what's the process of that looking like?
Yeah, so the process like this. So I have my property and casualty license specifically for New York, and I have a few other partners where we all have our licensing. And what we're looking to do is either buy an existing business or maybe just starting our own. With that being said, we offer almost every single type of insurance.
Hmm.
So whether that's going to be workers' comp, whether that's commercial, property, whether that's going to be just the auto insurance. The only thing that we're not going to be doing is essentially like the health insurance and life insurance, but essentially anything else we'll have available.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you're going to provide your services as you are
Yeah,
and say, hey, by the way, we have a brokerage where we offer these insurances. If we can save you money, we recommend you coming with us. If we can't save you money, we're still going to save you money at your current provider.
exactly. Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Thank you.
What does the process that actually look like starting up the brokerage?
So it depends on which type of brokerage that you're looking to start. Again, it's a little bit more different because there's a lot of different carriers that you'll have available. Maybe you'll have Progressive, Nationwide, etc. So a lot of times you or the franchise, you'll have to speak and basically get them on board, willing to work with your brokerage. You negotiate a commission split,
Mhm.
maybe it's like 8% or 11% for renewals every single year. So it's a great business to be in, but the best part is you want to make sure it's companies that are reliable, they have a great rating, of course, so that your clients are always protected. You never want like insolvency, etc. And that's not going to be an issue with us because we're only going to work with the top rated carriers.
Hmm. Can you give some examples of some success stories?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the one where I had success stories that I've personally dealt with was I had one family where they thought they were hopeless. 527 credit score. We've tried saving money, nothing works. Our bills are very high. I call them all the time. They never decrease it unless we cancel something. I was like, okay, let me try to take care of it. You're clearly stressed out. Just don't worry about this. This is what I do for a living. I'm an expert at it. It took some time. It took weeks. There was a lot of work that had to be done. There was money that they owed the IRS. There was credit repair that they needed. They needed their bills cut down. And they weren't able to pay the fee all at once, of course. So what we did was we did a payment plan. We don't believe in interest or any penalties. So we worked out a payment plan for 12 months. She was comfortable with the payments. And we were able to save them thousands and thousands of dollars.
Really?
We've worked with businesses before. Naz's Halal Food. They have over 50 different locations across the country. We're able to save them thousands and thousands of dollars
Wow.
overall. So that was very
So talk
beneficial.
to me. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I know that company. I've seen them all over the place.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that process. How are you able to save businesses money?
Yeah, so it really depends on what their expenses are. So we have to have a much longer consultation regarding what the business needs are, what it is exactly that they do. So in their case, a lot of their expenses might be um, Uber, for example. Maybe you have to renegotiate or prove, hey, listen, because XYZ, this competitor is getting this, we should be paying far less in the commissions. Maybe it's like their waste disposal. So they might be paying, again, XYZ, and then you're able to do your research, your due diligence. You have connections where, hey, this company is offering me this. Why should I be paying more for you when the service is exactly the same? Then all of a sudden you'll notice that, oh, you're right, sir. We'll be able to lower the
Mm,
payments, of course. So the reason why they're happy with this is if you save $50 a month, sure, that's great, 600 a year, but it's not going to be life changing. It's nice to have. Now, if you can do that for every single store that you have, and in their case, it's 50 different locations, now instead of it being, $600, that ends up being 30,000 a year, roughly. So it's a different ball game, and it really depends on the size of the
Yeah.
company, what their needs are, but there's a lot that can be done.
Yeah. And even kind of like you said earlier, talking like the I guess the personal versus commercial side, or I guess private, I don't know what you'd consider him, but the regular person versus the business.
Yeah.
Even talking business insurance, workers' comp, and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like, if you, as you guys know the industry really well, and what can and can't hurt, or can help your pricing is really interesting. And I guess it would the same thing applies for the businesses as well.
Yeah. So the thing is, when it comes to a business specifically, their situation is always far more complicated. But complicated isn't always a bad thing. It just means that you want to put in more work. But if it's more complicated, that means there's a lot more that can be saved
Hmm.
because of the fact that they might be spending money on 20 different expenses for one store, another 20, 30 on a different location. And in their case, I did review their insurance plans. And I let them know, I was like, listen, you guys should have almost everything very similar, unless one location, for example, is doing twice the amount of business. You have twice the amount of employees. Statistically speaking, obviously, there's a higher chance of it having an issue.
Hmm.
Maybe you need a higher coverage because this is generating a lot more revenue for you. So you should be paying a little bit more for your insurance. But God forbid something happens, that's the whole point. You have that protection right there.
Hmm.
And then they ended up listening, and thankfully they did because it's just good to have that coverage and peace of mind at the end of
Yeah,
the day.
absolutely.
Yeah.
What other services have you found that you can offer businesses?
So businesses, it's very interesting because there's so much to do, whether it's their business vehicles, whether it's, the actual insurance if they have a physical location. Maybe it's just reviewing their financials, where they're spending money and wasting. It's kind of almost like consulting at the end of the
Yeah.
day. So we'll take a look at every single thing possible, and there's no amount that's too small.
Hmm.
Even if it's 10 or $20 a month, it doesn't matter because, again, in the long run, that's going to add up significantly. And if it takes, only a few hours of work, and you're doing that for, again, 10 different locations, that'll quickly add up. And in 5 or 10 years, that savings, everyone wants the money and the savings now. Of course, we would like that too.
Hmm.
But we try to remind our clients to always think long term. If you can save that $10,000, yeah, $10,000, it's nice, it helps. But in 10 years, now it's 100,000. That sounds a lot better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And then they're happy. They start reshifting the way they think to the long term.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Another popular service we have is property taxes. Everyone in Nassau County, Suffolk County loves to grieve their property taxes. Some of our competitors might be Maidenbaum, Zap My Tax. They're all great, they're wonderful. I think a lot of times they'll charge about 40 to 50%. Our service are similar. We charge 40% of whatever we save our client. And if it's their first time, we only charge 30%. This way they can give us a try and they'll be able to see what it is that we do. The reason why we are different is a lot of people don't know this, is typically you're looking for comparable homes. You want to show, hey, this house is very similar to mine, but they're paying $2,000 or $3,000 less. Again, you file the paperwork, you send it over to the town, the county, they respond back, etc. But people don't realize that if your house, for example, maybe is a bit more outdated, okay? Or the other house, maybe they recently did renovation and they're still paying less than you. So if you can specifically cite these things and show like the proof, maybe they just got their siding done. Our house hasn't been updated in 10 years. We have the original, kitchen, we have the original bathroom. These things will, of course, affect the value of the home, and that'll give even a more of a reason why you should be paying less for your property
Hmm.
taxes. Our clients love the fact that we go extra, we go further with our research, etc., to get them the maximum savings, and that's why we're very popular and growing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, how do I guess is it public record? I guess honestly, they probably are. Certain things are public record because you have to pull permits for certain things.
Yeah.
But and I guess it's how you have access to certain that information of that house having new site, or you just go and look at that. That has new siding and this one doesn't.
Yeah, so in terms of all of this is public information. So just as an example, a lot of people do this themselves. They'll look at Zillow. You can see what year
Mm.
someone bought their home. You can see how much they paid. You can see their property taxes. Now, that's not always the most accurate. But in terms of speaking with the county for specific properties, yes, you're able to find all of this information available and the exact numbers down to the last
Hmm.
penny, which is what we do. You do your research. It does take a lot of effort and work, but we're willing to do it, save our clients on the hassle. Every single year they come back to us.
So you mentioned earlier, but that like as you grow, the desire to take on new employees.
Yeah.
What are you looking for in the right employee?
So for an employee, I actually said this all the time because one of my managers mentioned this to me when it was my very first time working, and they said you don't necessarily want someone that's very smart, but you want someone that's hardworking. And the reason why is you can't teach work ethic, but as long as they're willing to learn, I've noticed in my own experience that that person will go a lot further than someone that might think that they know everything, but they might be a little bit lazy or etc. As long as someone has that positive mentality, they're not nervous, they're willing to learn, they're willing to put in the work. This is something where it's not rocket science at the end of the day. It's just a matter of there's a certain amount of data and research that you have to do. You take that information that you have, you apply it, and then at the last step, you get the results.
Yeah.
So that's exactly how we frame it for our clients. That's exactly how I frame it for employees. And that's how something that we would look for in someone that works with our team.
Talk to me about culture in the company. What would be your goal to, what kind of culture would you like to develop inside the company?
For our culture, I would say, other than hard work, you want to make sure it's flexible. I've seen a lot of different workplaces where they don't have the flexibility. Whether it's ever since COVID, we've noticed it that culture changed. People are working remotely more than ever. People like the hybrid flexibility. Maybe they have kids, maybe they have something pops up. At the end of the day, what I always tell, whether it's my coworkers, employees, or even previously when I was working corporate, you want flexibility where as long as someone gets the job done, it's fine.
Hmm.
If someone could get something done for me in 4 hours versus pretending to be busy for 8 hours, I don't mind. Get it done in 4 hours. Enjoy the rest of your day off. You got the job done. You somehow managed to finish it more quickly than maybe what I would have been able to do.
Hmm.
I shouldn't penalize you for being smarter or working more efficiently and saying, hey, for the next 4 hours, you should do extra work that was not even contractually obligated to do, or you have to stay in the office and look like you're busy. No, we don't believe in that. We try to be modern and we work with our employees.
Hmm. Very interesting. So, wrapping it up, it's been a really interesting conversation. I think that I really think that I hope that people see this more than I've been telling people about this company, like since we first met, and I had done research on your company and stuff.
Thank you.
And I could just it's like, well, again, one of those things. It's like, how do people not know about this? So I hope that more and more people continue to see this.
Yeah.
That being said, I like to wrap up the conversation with this question. And what is something that you know now as a business owner that you wish you knew when you first started out?
So I would say I wish I was less nervous and willing to try things more quickly.
Hmm.
I would say there's a saying where it's better to try, fail, and readjust than to just be like anxious. And that's one thing that people overthink 100%. Now, obviously, I'm not saying don't put any thought into anything. You want to do your research, do your due diligence before making big decisions. But if I spend, $1,000 on yard signs, $1,000 on meta ads, etc., I'm not going to overstress and say, maybe I could have done 2,000 towards meta ads and that ended up being better. Just try it, see what works, see what doesn't, cut out what doesn't work, and double down on what does.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny you say that because I was driving from uh, Manhasset today and for another job that I had. And I was thinking that on the way, it was just one of the things that was in my truck. And I was thinking of how money well spent or not well spent. And it's funny how earlier in my career, granted, I wasn't making as much money. So money was a lot more, I don't know if I want to say I was more conscious of my spending,
Yeah.
but like $100 then meant a lot more than $100 now, thankfully, right?
Yeah, of
And
course.
that's just the reality of life. That being said, at this point in my career, I've stopped stressing out about, oh, that was a waste of money, because I think I've just shifted my paradigm. Like, no, but it's all a culmination of where I am today. Like, I've spent so much money on meta ads, and some of them were thousands of dollars completely wasted. But is it wasted because now I am running meta ads that are really working? Like,
Exactly.
would I like? I don't think I'd be here today with the working meta ads had I not failed on the meta ads in the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
I think we have this false expectation that in business we're gonna just automatically be good at things and not have to practice. And sometimes practice costs money.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to,
No, I
practice
agree
anything.
100%. When it comes to practice, like you said, it does cost money. One of my old managers, again, he was like a mentor to me, very helpful guy. And he would always tell me, if you made a mistake, think of it like tuition. You're paying for
That's
college education, you know? Like
yeah.
that's the price to learn,
Yeah,
you know?
so I laughed at that because I'm a college dropout and my dad went to has his associate's degree. So neither of us, but we're both business owners.
Yeah.
And he's owned his business for 35 years and I've owned mine for 12 or 15. Um, from the day I started, that's exactly what he would tell me. He's
Yeah.
like, I've always thought of my missed opportunities, poor business decisions, mistakes, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
as tuition expense. You know,
Yeah,
you
it's
you
true.
pay $5,000, $8,000 for a class. You lost $8,000 on running a bad ad. Well, it's the same thing,
Exactly,
and you learn
exactly.
from it as long as you learn from it and move on.
Yeah.
I've that's funny you say
Yeah,
that
you
because
learn from the experience, right?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. No, it's good stuff, man. I think that you guys, I'm really, really excited to see where you
thank you,
guys
thank you. It
go.
means a lot.
Um, Actually, the last question I want to see, because this is kind of a flip of a question,
Okay.
um, and maybe like an introspective question for you.
Okay.
What would be the one thing that could potentially cause you guys to fail?
So that's a great question. One thing that could cause us to fail, it's actually funny you said that, is I don't want to say if everyone became financially literate. It's more so
Hmm,
of if maybe like AI would automatically be able to apply every single discount, do the negotiation. I don't know how that would be possible. And I don't know why some of these companies would want that because they like the idea of someone overpaying.
sure.
I actually, when I used to work in the insurance industry, I learned this, many, many years ago. So let's say you have 10 different clients, right? Typically every 6 months or every year, the premiums will increase. From those 10 different clients, maybe seven will notice and they'll complain. Okay, the seven that complain, you can tell them, oh, I apologize, we'll bring it right back down. They'll be happy, that's it. The other three that might have automatic payments, they never really pay attention, they just increase and made money off them.
Mm,
Their retention rates will be very good, but by increasing, now I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, I'm not saying it's ethical, but that's what the reality is. And a lot of industries do this. It could be your T-Mobile bill, your Verizon, they'll increase it. So maybe it doesn't have to do with the discounts or the algorithm at all. Maybe it's just they're just trying to see if they can squeeze you for more money. Are you going to let them or are you going to be like, hey, I think that's enough. You've taken enough from me,
yeah.
you know?
No, and the reason I ask that is my follow-up question is, what would you do to prevent that from happening? Prevent your company,
Yeah,
from
of
failing.
course. So what we would do to prevent something like that affecting our business would be trying our best to always stay up to date with the most savings, making sure our relationships are there with a lot of these different companies. So this way we'll always be at the forefront and we can always get more savings than if you were to try to do it yourself.
Mm,
I tell my clients, I'm like, listen, try yourself. You're going to come back to me within a few months. You're going to realize I can still save you more money, but now you just wasted a few hours of your own time, whereas you could have saved that and saved more with us
yeah.
every single time that
It
happens.
makes no sense for me to do it myself because now not only do I have to give you the paperwork, right? Now, so I have to find the paperwork in general,
Yeah.
and then I still have to then be on the phone with the people. Like it just makes no sense. It's just giving you the paperwork, you doing the research, and then if we do a three-way call or whatever the case might be, then like all I'm doing is just showing up, and it literally makes no sense as to why
My
you wouldn't
best
do that.
friend actually, so he told me when I was first starting, he was like, I'm gonna try it myself. I said, no problem. He's like, I just want to see how good your business is, how knowledgeable you really are. It's different being able to say you know about something
Sure.
versus showing it. He ended up getting himself savings. I tell my clients all the time, if you're not gonna use this, at least try doing it yourself.
Hmm.
No problem. But in his case, same situation happened. I ended up speaking with these companies. I had more knowledge about these different fields, etc. We ended up getting him much more savings. He was obviously grateful, but it was a good learning lesson because it's gonna happen all the time. You're gonna have clients where they think that they're able to do everything themselves. That's not an issue. We still work with them. We'll tell them, just give us a chance. That's all.
Hmm.
No harm.
No, that's interesting. And again, I look forward to watching where you guys go.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for taking the time.
No,
It's been a
I
pleasure, my
appreciate it.
friend.